Chapter 4. About 10:30, the church's cracked bell began to ring, and people gathered for the morning sermon. The Sunday school children occupied pews with their parents. Tom, Sid, and Mary sat with Aunt Polly. Tom was placed on the aisle as far as possible from the open window and seductive outdoor summer scenes. The crowd filed up the aisles, the aged and needy postmaster, the mayor and his wife, the town had a mayor, among other unnecessaries, the justice of the peace, Caroline Douglas, a smart, wealthy, and generous widow of 40. Her hill mansion was the town's only palace. The bent and venerable Major and Mrs. Ward, Lawyer Riverson, the town beauty, followed by other ribbon-decked heartbreakers, all the young clerks in town, a circling wall of oiled and simpering admirers. They had stood in the entry hall until the last young woman had passed. And lastly, Willie Mufferson, the model boy, taking as much heedful care of his mother as if she were glass. He always brought his mother to church, and was the pride of all the matrons. The boys all hated him because he was so good, and so often held up to them as a model. Willie had a white handkerchief. Tom considered any boy with a handkerchief a snob. The bell rang once more, a call to any stragglers. Then a solemn hush fell on the assembly. It was broken only by the tittering and whispering of the choir in the gallery. The choir always tittered and whispered throughout the service. There once was a well-behaved church choir, but I've forgotten where it was. In some foreign country, I think. The minister, Reverend Sprague, read the hymn with enthusiasm. He was considered a wonderful reader. At church gatherings he always was asked to read poetry. When he finished, the ladies would cover their eyes and shake their head, as if to say, "Words cannot express how beautiful it is, too beautiful for this earth." After the hymn, Reverend Sprague read notices of meetings. It seemed the list would stretch to doomsday. Then he prayed. He pleaded for the church's little children, the town's other churches, the town itself, the county, the state, the United States, the churches of the United States, Congress, the President, sailors tossed by stormy seas, the millions oppressed by European monarchs or Oriental despots, and the heathens of far-off islands. He closed with a plea that his words might find favor and be maybe as seed sown in fertile ground, yielding in time a harvest of good. Amen. Dresses rustled, and the standing congregation sat down. Tom did not enjoy the prayer. He only endured it. Whenever Reverend Sprague added something new, Tom resented it. He considered additions unfair. In the midst of a prayer, a fly had lit on the back of the pew in front of him. The fly tortured Tom's spirit by rubbing her hands together, embracing her head with her arms, and polishing it vigorously, scraping her wings with her hind legs and smoothing them to her body, going through her entire toilet with the utmost calm. Tom itched to grab the fly, but he didn't dare. He believed that his soul would be instantly destroyed if he did such a thing during prayer. But the instant after Amen, that fly was his prisoner. His aunt detected the act and made Tom let her go. Reverend Sprague read his sermon, droning through an argument so wordy that many a head began to nod. It was an argument that dealt in limitless fire and brimstone, and thinned the predestined elect down to so few as to hardly be worth saving. Tom counted the sermon's pages. After church, he always knew how many pages the sermon had been, but he seldom knew anything else about it. However, this time he actually was interested for a little while. Reverend Sprague spoke of the millennium, when a lion and lamb would lie down together, and a child would lead the world's people. The moral was lost on Tom, who thought only of the principal character's conspicuousness before onlooking nations. He wished that he could be that child, if the lion was tame. As the dry argument resumed, Tom lapsed once more into suffering. It was a genuine relief to the whole congregation when the ordeal was over and the benediction pronounced.